What's going on, fam? Welcome to the Get the Bag podcast. I'm your host, Gladia Castro. Got my co-host, Tim Park. What's going
Hey,
on?
what's up? What's going on?
We're getting turned up on a Friday, going into the
Definitely.
weekend. Had to postpone it, but hey, we're back on here. Really excited. But before we kind of get into it, as I always say, like don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram. We're going to be working on pushing out some more content, but just kind of adding value to you guys. So feel free to check out our other videos. We've done a few. Yeah, being on episode 44, that's kind of crazy.
I know, right? Man, we come a long way
We've come
since
a
the
long
beginning.
way. I feel like I'm a whole different person from episode one. It's
I know.
crazy. um but this episode is something that's actually brought up a lot. We
Yeah.
we are in the real estate sector. I mean, I'm in tech. Tim, you've been in different industries.
Mhm.
I never knew the importance of an LLC until I got into real estate. Like,
Right.
because LLC is really a way to protect yourself. But people are a little intimidated. They think, oh, you have to be a certain status to have a company. It's a little intimidating, because there are a lot, some hoops and steps that you have to take. But um, if you want to, help with taxes or whatever, LLC
Mhm.
can. And let me just start by saying we are not tax experts.
Yeah.
So obviously speak to an accountant, a CPA, or consult with them. We're just kind of sharing our experiences
Yeah.
with the LLC and things that we're learning even now. Because there's so many, uh, I guess, strategies that you can kind of follow. And we'll just give you kind of what we've learned so far, I guess.
Yeah. Sounds good. Let's do it.
Um, so kind of starting off with real estate, specifically wholesaling. Let's just say
Mhm.
you're a new wholesaler. You haven't gotten your first deal yet. Tim, do you think you need an LLC, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think if you have the budget and you can do it, I think it's better to get an LLC from the jump, but if you can't and, can't afford it, you have nothing, and you're just trying to grind it out, then it's fine. You can use your own name, but when you get your first deal, then I would recommend you getting an LLC because if anything happens in a transaction or, the seller wants to sue you or, you are liable for that if your name is on the contract, right?
Right,
So if you have an LLC, that separates you personally from liability from
right,
that, and they'll have to go to your LLC, go after your LLC, I should say, instead
right.
of you personally. So
Yeah. When I heard that, I was like, I'm getting an LLC. I mean, obviously, I had the opportunity, like I had the extra funds. But even if you do, like, honestly, you can get your first deal. But for me, I'm that type of person that I'm like, I
right.
need to get things set up before. But see,
Mhm.
what happens is like some people get their LLC and never take action, or like they'll
Right.
never they'll never make a phone call or whatever. But for me, I was like, I need that protection. I have a family. I just don't I don't want to be that person.
Right.
And even then I'm like, we're still growing our LLCs. But I think
Mhm.
on average, like if you do it on your own, obviously, like going to the to your county website,
Mhm.
and I don't know, Tim, if you've ever done it like yourself or if you've always used a third party. I used a third party,
Yeah.
and I think it was around. It does depend, I think, on the filing state. And that was one thing I wish I should have like done more research.
Mhm.
And we'll talk about this a little bit more on like which states you should start your LLC in, because just because we live in California doesn't mean we have to file with California.
Perfect. Yep. Yep. You're right.
And that was one thing I wish I would have changed. I would have done it a little bit differently that I didn't know. So I
Mhm.
filed with California, my first LLC, and had I known, California is like one of the highest. It taxes the LLCs like one of the
It
highest
is.
percentages. Um, and that was that's what I get for just stepping in and just failing forward. But like either way, I'm glad I did it. I can
Mhm.
always change it, but I think it cost me around, because I used Zen Business. I think it cost me around $300 or like
Mhm.
$400 or something
Mhm.
along the lines for them to, um, for me to put type in my LLC name, set up, create a record with the Secretary of the State, file my EIN, create a registered agent, um, all that stuff, and even manage that from that perspective. I
Mhm.
think they can also manage, like, domains and, like, there's all
Yeah.
these things that they can set up on your behalf. So, for me, I was like, if I don't have to worry about it, like, I'll do it. But you don't have to follow that route, especially if you're kind of balling on a budget and you still want to, get have that protection with an LLC.
Right.
You can do on your own. Like I said, you can go to the
Mhm.
Secretary of the State, and register an LLC. Some is depending on the states, some is straightforward, some it's
Mhm.
a little tough, but you just have to pay that filing fee and that's it.
Yep. Yep. You're right. And I've always had someone, kinda do it for me, either an attorney or, I've done, Zen Business as well. And, the it's just easier to have a service do it, in my opinion.
Right.
So you don't have to worry about it. I know you can do it on your own, and it will, be a lot longer process, and you have to go through different websites, the county website, or then you have to get a registered agent that handles that state, and then so they can forward the mail to
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
in the state that you're currently living. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but, that's why it's just convenient to go through a service.
Right. Yeah, so, again, guys have options. Obviously, the best way is just consult with the CPA or, a tax attorney.
Mhm,
Obviously, that does come with cost, but if you really are worried about that kinda stuff, definitely talk to an attorney or CPA, and they can set you up with all of that. And I think it's worth it. That's one thing when you're investing with yourself, 'cause I think in California, for me, it was like, "Hey, I'm not gonna worry about making money right off the bat." 'Cause I'm like,
mhm,
I'm still working, I still have a 9 to 5. But when I got my taxes, like, before I started my LLC, I was like, "Yo, this is ridiculous." Like, why
Yeah,
am I being charged? Like, I'm paying my taxes, like, why am I being charged so much? And it was a fact where I was making too much, and I'm married too, so it's a dual income.
mhm,
So, I was the Uncle Sam was, like, getting me, and so, that was also another kind of motivator in, like, getting an LLC, and I was
mhm,
like, and I think in California, you up to 3 years, you can, like, kind of not make any money, and
yeah,
you won't get penalized, or not even penalized, but, like, I think there's, like, a charge or fee or something like that.
yeah,
Again, don't quote me, you can, definitely, ask a CPA. But when I did my taxes my first year, I was able to offset a lot of my business expenses with my
mhm,
LLC, um, and my let's just say I was able to get some money,
yeah,
back,
that's good.
just doing it that way. So, I think, you don't just do it because, like, we say so. Again, do what, like, works best for you, but definitely if you're in real estate and you've, closed your first deal, at least
Mhm,
you should have an LLC prepped,
yeah.
ready to go.
Another thing that is, a gem for you guys is that if you put your like, let's say you acquire a property and you're starting to acquire more properties for, to investment properties to rent out as well. If you put it under the same LLC and then you get sued, then they can come after all those properties.
Right,
So it's good to that's why you see when you're looking up properties, you'll see the address LLC, right? So they actually, started a separate LLC just for that property. So if
right,
anything happens, like a tenant tries to sue you, they would have to sue that LLC for that property instead of you personally.
right.
So, or if someone tries to sue you and you have 20 properties, right? They can go after all those properties within that LLC.
Yeah,
So that's just a food for thought type of thing. So when you're thinking about different aspects of real estate and trying to protect yourself, and you can have a holdings company that owns all these LLCs, or a trust that owns the holding company,
Mhm.
then owns all these LLCs, right? So
Right.
there's
There's
different ways to
layers,
structure.
there's
Yeah,
levels to this,
definitely.
as they like to say, and I think you bring up a really good point, and this is what the rich and wealthy have been doing, but of course, it's not talked about.
Right.
I didn't even know kind of what a holding company was, like, I'm like, "What?" 'Cause, I remember when we got in around the same time, you had already, done your businesses, you already had a holding company or had started one, and I was like, "Wait, like, oh, I can do that?" And, like,
Mhm.
people just think, "Oh, let me just create my one LLC and, like, that's it."
Mm.
But really the proper structure, and I've kinda learned in doing my own research, and there's so many other, really great influencers, like, in the business. I think Pace Morby has done
Mhm.
a really good, has a good YouTube video on, the structuring of an LLC, or, like, he goes
Mhm.
really into the details. But really the proper way is like your wholesaling company should be a separate entity, meaning a separate LLC,
Mhm.
where you do, because the biggest thing with taxes is you want to make sure your expenses are going through the proper channels. So it's like if I'm making
Mhm.
wholesaling expenses or paying stuff for my softwares, that shouldn't be charged through my rental
Right.
LLC, for example. So if I'm wholesaling, I should have a wholesaling LLC, and that's where all my money and
Mhm.
activity with that. And a really good book that I recommend is Profit First. That's the
Mhm.
original book, but Profit First for Real Estate Investing by David. Let me look him up. I think his last name David Richter. That is, I totally recommend that book because he goes into detail of like wholesalers, real estate investors, if you're a landlord, if you're flipping, you should have he goes into like how you should set up your bank accounts, because that's a whole
Mhm.
separate thing, that's also part of your LLC, is you need to have a bank account, a
Right.
business bank account attached to your LLC. So I know I went over a lot of things, but like if you're wholesaling, you should have that LLC. If you want to get rentals, you should have a separate LLC for your rentals. And like Tim said, you want layers of protection. So, of course, the next step would be to get a holding company that owns those LLCs. And then an even deeper level, which I don't think you really need a trust until like you have, because from what I understand, trusts cost hella money
Mhm.
to have. So once you've kind of gathered a good portfolio, then you can kind of go in and create a trust. And a trust doesn't have to own real estate; it can own all different types of stuff too.
Mhm.
But you have your trust that owns the holding company, and then your holding company owns the different LLCs. So
Mhm.
um, I know we went over a ton of stuff, but part of like setting up the LLC, like I said again, is getting that business bank account. And so, Profit First for Real Estate Investing is a great book to start off with. He really paints the picture in terms of how to organize your expenses
Yeah.
once you get an LLC.
Yeah, and the other thing is that I know that people are probably seeing this all over like YouTube or TikTok or Instagram about, business credit and all of that. And that's what you have to have is a LLC to, at least start to get
Yeah.
you that business credit and starting to put assets under that LLC, right? And so you can accumulate some business credit, so you can acquire like different equipment or vehicles or whatever you need to run your business. So
Yeah, that's a really great tip. I mean, there's different types of funding too. Like you can get business loans
hmm
too, or
grants.
where grants. So it's just kind of doing some research, or consulting with other people, other business owners. Like Tim, you put me on one, like Verizon had a business grant. I was like, what? That you can apply for.
hmm
So these are the kind of things that you want to like look out for. But I guess to like break it down, like in setting up an LLC for people who maybe are thinking about it, or maybe they just closed their first deal.
hmm
First step is obviously you want to pick a name,
hmm
LLC name. From what we've been told, or what we've been like recommended, is like it shouldn't have like a, if you're in real estate, you shouldn't have like real estate on it, or I mean you can,
hmm
but that sometimes affects, right, like your credit too, or like people when they're auditing stuff, you want to
Mhm.
keep it as vague as possible. Sometimes you don't really want to have your name, like you shouldn't have Gladia Castro LLC, because
Right,
I mean,
right.
people will know, like, okay, that's, and
Exactly.
sometimes when I see that, I'm like, well, okay. And when I see other sellers, I'm like, they know they have their name, right? Like, I can kind of just look them up. So you want to just have a general name that kind of fits what you're doing. It can be, I don't know, enterprises, or even
Mhm.
sometimes that can be a little vague. But once you get a name and it's available. That is if you're doing it through, let's just say, a third party, or just have somebody do it for you. Like they're going to go in and file it with the Secretary of State. They're going to create an EIN, which is kind of an identification for your business, like a social
Mhm.
security number, right? And then from there, they're going to create, I think it's the articles of organization or something, of like just laying out your
Mhm.
entire
Mhm.
business. And then, Tim, I think there's also what's called an operating agreement, which
Correct.
is like
Yeah.
the Bible, or like of your business,
Yeah.
if like
The
things go
structure
wrong.
of your business and
Right.
how everything kinda pulls together. If you have partners, you have to put that, what their split is in the company and shares and all of that, so.
Right. So then they'll create that. Is there anything else that goes into the process of just creating an LLC besides the
Yeah,
state,
I
IRS?
think,
Oh, that's the EIN as well.
yeah, the EIN number, and then, you would take all the once you complete all that, then you can take all those documents to the bank, and
Yep.
then they can set up, a business account for you. A lot of these services have an option where they can set up the business account for you through their
Mhm.
system. So you can do that, or you could just go to your local bank that you've been working with, or credit union or whatever case may be, and just give them all the information or certificates that you get from the state and saying that I have a business, this is my EIN number, this is my articles of incorporation, these are my business is in good standing, and then also the operating agreement if they require that. Some
Right.
banks don't, some banks do. It just all depends on the bank.
Right. And that's really it. Like, you need a bank account to like fund, because that's what the expenses and profit are going to funnel through. And so you need a way to track that, or like
Mhm.
go through. And so obviously a tool like QuickBooks is really great.
Yep.
Um, and that's it. You have an LLC, and then come tax season, of course, you have to also hand all that over. If you have a CPA already, or somebody who does your taxes, you hand all that information with you, because that's why, like, we recommend like a QuickBooks, or something to track all of your expenses, your income, because that's what's going to indicate, like, hey, like what's your what are you going to receive come, after submitting all your tax stuff. So one of the things we didn't cover that I think you added here is, what state, now that we know, like, if I live in Virginia, I don't have to register with
Mhm.
Virginia. I can register with another state.
Mhm.
What do you recommend? I think some states here you have for tax purposes,
Mhm.
because real estate, it's vague, right? I don't, just because I live in California and I have my business register here doesn't mean I'm only doing business in California. I'm doing business in other states
Right.
as well. So it doesn't matter where you file it, but I think the three states you listed here that are the best to file is Delaware, Nevada, and Wyoming. And the
Right.
reason why we say it's the best is because they have the best anonymity, meaning like it's hard for people to find you. Um, and I think I've registered recently my holding company with Wyoming, because I think they have one of the strongest
Mhm.
levels of anonymity, where it's like you can't, like, any new LLC I create under this holding company, like, you're really gonna have to like pay somebody to find to find like
Mhm.
my
Right.
information. But I
Right.
think you had some information here on Delaware too, which I think you've created some LLCs with. Tim?
Yeah, so Delaware is like one of the most popular states, and about 50% of publicly traded companies use Delaware as the state to, start their business or incorporate their business. A roughly of those 63% of the are Fortune 500 companies, right? So
Mhm.
um, the big boys are doing it in that state. It
And
definitely
girls.
protects them. So I know a lot of startups that start, and my startup was, in Delaware as well. So, there's two major perks, I guess Delaware provides is, low fees and taxes, and then no tax out of state income for foreign LLCs, right? So basically, for an LLC is if you have an LLC in another state, right? So that's basically, or another country, I should say too. So,
Mhm.
but it's mostly another state. So, like when I had my LLC, my first LLC was in Pennsylvania, but I did my first deal in California, and I had, some investors ask you to do a 1099, right? So
Right.
this one investor had to sent me a 1099. So that mean I had to registered with the state of California.
Mm.
So at that time I registered. So then I had to pay taxes on
Right.
that income that I
As like
do.
as
But
a contractor.
as a contractor, right?
Yeah.
So, so you'll run into those things, and those aspects um, will kind of help you, because I don't want to get in trouble with the IRS. I
Right.
do not, and I want to kind of do everything by the book, and try to save money as much as I can, and then avoid taxes as much as I can, the right way, right?
Right.
So, and a lot of that helps when you start your LLC in the right state that protects you from certain taxes and paying taxes. So
Right.
like we said, always consult a tax attorney or accountant that that specializes in that can actually help you kind of navigate those waters. And as you expand, then you're going to um, be able to save money here and there based on how your business is structured.
Right. Yeah, and that's really it. Like, it's not very complicated to start. I think, um, for someone like me who started off, like, I think I overcomplicated it
Mhm.
and, like, made it a bigger deal. I mean, it is a big deal. You're still, you're creating a company, right? Like
Mhm.
it's an LLC that you own. You're responsible for paying the taxes every year. So which is why it's like we always say, get, if your funds are a little tight, get your first deal first, because then you can afford to work on that, or you can
Right.
afford to pay that. But it's totally worth it. All the wealthy people have done it, and the fact that so many people are not educated on the power of LLC. And of course, you can go into like, and I think with TikTok and Instagram, like they make it seem like, oh well, you should get this or the S corp this,
Mhm.
or really consult with somebody. I mean, that's something I'm in the process of doing, is actually hiring an accountant or somebody who I can personally work with.
Mhm.
That's something I've never done before, and because it's like I want to take advantage of
Right.
having a business, and there's tons of advantages you can have, not only with like your expenses, but it's like we talked about business credit.
Mhm.
Um, and all these advantages and strategies that you can follow. Like everybody talks about the 6,000 pound car rule, and like,
Mhm.
how
Mhm.
you can write
Right.
off a car, but it's
Yep.
like you don't want to just go in there without having any advice or having professional advice on what does that look like. Because then again, Uncle Sam's going to be knocking at your door if you miss a step because you want it to be cheap. Like,
Right.
this is not the
Right.
time to be cheap when it comes to yourself and your business. This is where you really want to invest well, and know that and be smart about it, because we don't want no extra bill or to be
No.
audited because we did something wrong because we wanted to take shortcuts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, by you taking the step in starting an LLC, you're taking another um, chapter into your business to make it more successful because you're taking the right um, avenue to level up your business, right?
Right.
So it's not just you trying to hustle. Now you're creating a full entity that will, that gets taxed or that pays you or pays other people.
Hmm.
And, you kind of grow it, and, see where that vision is going to go for your business. And a lot of people go a lot of different directions. So just, kind of see now it's on paper. Like you see your company's name on paper, and now you
Right.
have a bank account with your company's name. And that,
Yeah.
that's a success. That's a win for you, right?
Hmm.
Because you actually created something from nothing. And then now you're making money from that as well, so
Right.
and you're putting, income or revenue into that business, right? So,
And the government wants you to make like the IRS, like government, they want you to they want to
mhm.
create business owners because
Yep.
business what do business owners do? They create jobs.
Yep.
That's why they get so many tax breaks.
Yep.
If you do it, obviously, people. We talked about Trump. We talked about all which give me the number to his accountant because
I
I
know,
might find
right?
some loopholes. Although I don't know, right now it's not looking so hot for him.
I
We'll
know,
kind
but
of
I
see.
can't believe he's still, like, up there in the Forbes list, right? So
Right. Something he's doing is obviously has worked all along, but this is what it's like. You put the right people who own up to, like, who are
mhm,
responsible for, or experts in the right places, where it's like, hey, you're really good at this, like, do it. So
right.
create that LLC when the opportunity comes, because again, the government wants people to start businesses. Now, we've
Mhm,
talked about in other episodes, if they last, how, like, people do fail
mhm.
businesses because it is hard, and
Yeah,
it takes
it is.
years for your business to like fully pick up and be like profitable. Some people it happens much sooner, um but yeah, do your research, consult with somebody. It's
Mhm,
there's no reason why you shouldn't have an LLC or something. Like, think of something to make money, consulting, whatever the
mhm,
case may be.
mhm,
Even for the podcast, like, you can create an LLC for this and,
mhm.
create tax breaks. Like, that's the best way to wealth and financial freedom.
Yep, absolutely. That's 100%. So, I hope this, podcast brought you guys value and, just when you have the funds and you're able to spend the money to get an LLC, we definitely recommend it. It's going to be beneficial for you and your business going forward. And like we said, get someone to help you out on getting it started, or eh, meet with a tax attorney or um, a attorney or tax attorney or tax accountant,
Accountant, yeah.
and kind of get started and see what direction you want to go from there.
Yeah, and, like, talk to your peers too.
Yep.
If you know other people who also have businesses, or maybe, had a background in, like, accounting or whatever, or they have a good accountant, like, see if they can refer you over to them. Obviously, word of mouth, like anything. That's probably something I'll do. It's like, "Hey, like, how are they as in?" Because you want to vet the professionals that you're bringing on. You don't wanna just bring on whoever just because.
Mhm.
So you
Mhm.
have to do your due diligence too on, like, the people you're bringing on to protect you. They have to be right by you. So definitely, like, ask around, or reach out to other people who are successful and be like, "Hey,
Mhm.
uh, what what do you recommend?" Or, "Hey, what are some people I should reach out to, or refer to?" And, go from there. So, definitely ask your community. That's all I would say. Um, Especially if you're, like, out in real estate, or whatever, reach out to anybody who's in this industry and see how they can best help you.
Yep. 100%. Love it.
Sweet. Well, appreciate you guys tuning in. I want to see who's going to start their LLCs, or
I
who's going to
know,
start
right?
their holding company, or who's going to start their rental LLC. But appreciate you guys joining us, and feel free to drop some comments down below or questions if you have any for us. We'll be back on schedule next week.
Yep.
Stay tuned for that. But have a great rest of your weekend, and talk to you guys later.
All right.